Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ali Mora, and I'm with the 2016 Com Week Task Force. I'm here to present to you Jack, Allison, and George for their presentation for Secrets Untold. But yeah, so here they are, and they're going to give you a lovely presentation tonight. And I do want to take a moment to say thank you to them for coming out and participating in the 2016 Com Week.
Evening. And welcome. Tonight's program is entitled Secrets Never Told, and we've got a couple of speakers that are students, currently students, one here at Cal State and one at, where are you, Allie? Where are you a student?
Me? Oh,
yeah.
Norco College.
Norco College. And they've all have sort of secrets to tell. You know, some secrets are secrets that you want to hold on to and not tell anybody because you're afraid to tell them, because you're afraid of being judged by what you might be saying and what secret you might tell. And then other secrets you hold and you go, I know something you don't know. And you feel kind of special because you have a secret. And then I'm going to finish up with talking about one of my main secrets. But I'm going to leave that for the end. But welcome to Cal State, welcome to the pub, welcome to Com Week. And as we get started, I want to thank Ali Mora, who just introduced the show, for putting it all together and coordinating with us and making this happen. So our first speaker, and as we hear the bowling alley going across the way, that's kind of interesting. Our first speaker tonight is a current student of mine here at Cal State Fullerton, and he is active in the local community, volunteering in the community, volunteering at schools, putting activities together, and he also made an interesting presentation in my class, and when he did that, I invited him to come up and speak tonight, and his is entitled Shaping Shit. And with that, this is George Calderon.
Overgrown piece of shit. If we believed everything people said about us to be true, then that is what I'd be. I'd be a steaming pile of shit. In fact, that's what I thought I was for many years until I realized that who I am and who people say I am are two different things. Hello, my name is George Calderon, and today I'd like to talk to you about identity and how I became comfortable with my own. So before becoming comfortable with your own identity, you must first understand what identity is. As defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, identity is comprised of qualities and beliefs that make you different from others. So you have to ask yourself, what makes you different? It seems like a simple question, but when I asked myself that, it took a lot of thinking. In order to understand what makes you different, you must look at a few fundamentals of identity, such as your self-concept, your reflected appraisals, and lastly, your self-esteem. So let's start off with self-concept. You. At a very basic level, who are you? Are you funny, smart, kind? This is your self-concept. And it's one of the greatest tools you can use into becoming comfortable with your own identity. According to Philip Wynne from Simon Fraser University, your self-concept is an educationally significant variable. This is why ever since children are born, or ever since children are young, we give them words of appraisal. No matter how bad their crayon drawing might be, we slap that on the fridge and we tell them that we're proud of them. Because this reflected appraisal gives them a sense of worth and value. But just as reflected appraisals can give someone worth, it can also devalue somebody. When I was growing up, I was a particularly smart kid, and so I was put into GATE, a gifted and talented education program. When I was there, I grew up knowing that I was smart, because every time I would get a good mark on a test, my teachers, my mom, and even a few of my classmates would give me praise. I also knew that I was funny because every time I cracked a joke, my classmates would be roaring, man. And this feeling felt great. It made me feel accepted. But it didn't last for long because once I got home, I had to be subjected to the verbal abuse from my brothers and my father. It didn't matter how great the day went because at the end of it, they would call me a piece of shit, and so that's what I felt like. I felt like shit. And it took many years for me to realize that who I am and who I'm not. Once I began to understand that they themselves were calling me names because they were insecure, everything else seemed to fall into place. I wasn't a piece of shit. I'm not even close to a piece of shit. I'm funny, smart, kind. But don't get me wrong, I'm not all sunshine and rainbows either because I'm lazy, stubborn, and a bit of an asshole at times. And I can say this with confidence because this is what I believe my self-concept to be. This is what I've gained from my reflected appraisals. So after you get a good concept of who you are as a person, it's time to move on to your self-attributions. So your self-attributions come in two different ways: internal causal link and external causal link. With an internal causal link, you tend to attribute your successes or failures to internal factors. For example, when I was young, I would study for tests, and thus when I got a good grade on them, I would always attribute it to myself because I took the responsibility to study. So why should I say that it was luck's fault? On the flip side, we have external causal link, which is where you begin to attribute your successes or failures to external factors. This was a causal link that I loved to abuse when I was getting older, mainly because I never really liked taking responsibility for my own failures. So in middle school and high school, when I didn't study for a test, I would always attribute it to something else. Because as far as I was concerned, I was a smart kid. I had no need to study. So when I got a bad grade on a test, that was the teacher's fault. Or even worse, the test was rigged. Because I was smart. The teachers, they just hated me. So as we can see, your self-concept plays a big part in your self-attribution, as does your self-esteem. Because if you tend to have a relatively positive self-concept about yourself, then we can say that your self-esteem is relatively high. And thus, when you succeed, you're not going to attribute it to luck. You're going to say, hell yeah, that was me. I worked towards that. On the flip side, if you have a relatively negative self-concept about yourself, then sometimes you tend to have a negative self-esteem. And so when you do succeed and you do get an A on that test, you say, no way, man, that couldn't have been me. That was luck right there. And so we can see that self-esteem plays a great part in our identity. In fact, self-esteem is one of the biggest buzzwords of our generation because of how big of a part it plays in our identity. Me, I feel that my self-esteem is relatively high. This is because when I look at my self-concept, I look at it in a very positive outlook. I mean, yes, I can be lazy. And trust me, I can be an asshole. But it's something that I've been managing or trying to take care of by managing both my time and emotions. And so when I look at my self-concept, I don't see a lazy, stubborn asshole. I see, yeah, it's that smart guy, that kind guy. Ooh, that good-looking guy, right? And so that's why my self-esteem is relatively high. Another thing that plays a big part in your self-esteem is your social comparisons. For example, if you always compare yourself to the best of the best and you beat yourself up for not being perfect, then you're going to completely destroy your self-esteem. This is seen greatly in high school when teenagers tend to look at people they see in TV and magazines and say, if I don't walk like them and if I don't talk like them, then I'm not as valuable as them. And this is absolutely detrimental to a person's self-esteem. But I'm telling you right now, social comparisons aren't all bad. You can use them for good. For example, if you have a role model in your life, then you can look at them, and if they come from a similar background, when you look at their successes, you realize that that's something you can achieve. For example, in my life, one of the biggest role models is my mother. And this is because she has a fantastic story. She grew up with people telling her that she was not worth it, that she wasn't valuable, and it just absolutely destroyed her self-esteem. She fell into substance and drug abuse, and at the end, she was just at a place that no one would like to be. But She got tired of everyone saying that she was worthless. So she decided to turn her life around and change it for the better and show them wrong. Now, my mom is living in Orange County, being PTA president in my little sister's school. I mean, hell, if she can do that, I can do anything. And so your social comparisons can be used for good and evil. Sometimes people are too hard on themselves and they completely destroy their self-esteem, while others can look at role models and use that to better their lives. And so to become completely comfortable with your own identity, you must use all of these fundamentals of identity to your advantage. For example, you need to look at your self-concept. Start at a basic level and see that there's a bunch of traits that you have that are admirable. Then from there, hopefully that will build onto your self-esteem. And once your self-esteem gets good enough and high enough that you feel proud about yourself, then you can begin to change the way you attribute your successes. Because if you always use an external causal link and say that everything you achieved in life was due to luck, then you're completely voiding yourself of any positive reflected appraisals. And so you have to take responsibility for your successes and your failures. Because once you begin to do that, you put the power to shape your life in your own hands. And so to become completely comfortable with your identity, you must be proud to be different. If you hide who you truly are out of fear of judgments, then you'll never be able to shine as bright of a star as you are because you spent too much time trying to hide amongst the black night sky. So now when people call me a piece of shit, I laugh. Because the only shit that I smell is the bullshit coming out of their mouth because I know how fantastic I am. Thank you.
That was George Calderon, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that a great speech? Alison Tipton is a former student of mine, and when she was taking my class, she brought to my attention that she blogged a bit and she wrote about interesting things about life and some of her experiences and the things that she has gone through. She is a creative writer, she is an artist, and she is now blogging on my website, jackupyourlife.com, on a regular basis, and you can check her out in the bloggers forum because she has interesting insights on life, and we're going to hear her speak about a better truth. Alison Tipton.
Hi guys. Is my mic working? Okay. We are told things every day that we then determine whether or not we believe in our hearts are true. And our perception of these change with time. Some things we are going to believe them in our entire life. And these are going to be values and morals we hold with us forever. But others we find ourselves questioning with age. I had a friend of mine who was very dear when I was about 17 years old. And they told me this exact quote. Writers are always liars. A little embellishment here and a little tweak there makes for a better story. It's just that we want you to listen. We want you to listen. And in their lies, writers tell a better truth. Writers tell a better truth. That was the part of what she told me that seared into my mind so deeply for so long. And with that, I believe that it gave me this poetic explanation of this element of fantasy I had been indulging in for as long as I could remember. This made-up version of my life that I like to portray. Lying came to me young, and it came to me natural. It was easy. I could tell you a lie about anything, and most people wouldn't even know. I was pretty good at it. because I have a big imagination, and that's what I like to fixate on, and that's how I justified it, you know? I could make up anything I wanted, and I could probably convince you to be true. And I wanted to share this world I had created with everyone around me, but I didn't really realize some of the damage it was causing in the long run. It's always been my nature to talk in the most poetic, most enticing way possible. I'm a poet, I'm a songwriter, it's just what I do. It's not that I wanted to hurt anyone. It's not that I wanted to lie to anyone. I wanted you to be shocked. I wanted you to care, but most of all, I wanted you to listen. Like I said, lying was easy for me. Started small when I was a kid. Saying I'd finished my homework when I probably had piles I'd shoved under my mattress. Cleaning my room even though I had bigger piles in my closet. And, when my dad asked why the phone rang at midnight, claiming that I had no idea. Totally have been talking to some boy, no. But they got more complicated as I got older. My dad's in the audience, so this part's a little nerve-wracking. Claiming I'd got home on time, but really being quite later than they thought. Telling my boyfriend that no one was hitting on me at that party. I was just there with my girlfriends. Telling my best friend that I'm colorblind. I can see colors perfectly fine. Sorry, Kate. She just found out today, by the way. I called her before this performance, panicking, explaining her this. The thing about lying is the more you lie, the easier it gets, the less hesitation you have, and the less you care. I mean, shoot, once you're telling one, they just kind of start coming out of your mouth before you have completely lost track of what you're even saying. But as they escalate, your memory has to also, because you find yourself caught in this just never-ending web. And that leads to things like having to make sure you get home before your parents wake up. And deleting text messages so you can really claim that, no, you're not talking to that guy, I swear. And then when you dye your hair red, awkwardly having to answer the question, having to answer the question, how did you know it wasn't green? I used to truly believe that there was no such thing as the complete truth. It made perfect sense to me because this story I was telling was more interesting, it got me out of a lot of situations, and it made me more memorable to everyone around me. I genuinely believed, and to an extent I still do, that the world thrives on lies. Because if no lies were told one day, if literally no one in the world could lie, government would absolutely collapse, relationships would be destroyed, and there would just be a painful shudder throughout all of humanity, just realizing a lot of things that they just don't want to. Many of us lie or omit something in every single conversation we have. And it's not something we do intentionally, it's just that the truth sometimes can be a very ugly, very complicated creature. The concerned parent doesn't want to find out that their 17-year-old boy bought acid from some guy in a park 2 years ago. They don't want to know, okay? Your wife doesn't want to know that 10 years back when you guys got married, that there was a stripper at your bachelor party. And the stranger doesn't need to know that the outfit you're wearing appalls them. And the 4-year-old isn't ready to comprehend that one day they're going to die, and so will everyone they love. There are things we just can't say at certain times, so we omit, we lie, we adjust the truth. And these must occur in this way in order, ultimately, for the survival of society. Where we should draw the line on this is where I've always been kind of confused. I don't know how much of the truth I should tell a lot of the time. And because lying came naturally to me, I usually picked it. The closer we are to people, the more likely we are to lie to them. I feel like most people can agree with that statement. And whether this is that we're trying to protect them, maintain a sense of stability, or whatever the reason is, the closer someone is, the more deeply we love them, the more we seem to lie to them. We tend to hide things from our past that we're not proud of, whether that is the number of sexual partners we've had, even though that shouldn't be something you're ashamed of. If we've dropped classes and we don't want our parents to find out, or other instances that just things from our past that we're ashamed of. And we tend to exaggerate the things that we are proud of. You know, yeah. I am a writer, an idealist, a dreamer, and yes, a liar. I never, ever wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to fascinate them. I just wanted people to pay attention. And that's all it came down to. I was captivated by this world I had created, painting this beautiful painting, blurring the lines between reality and its alternative. I had become the writer of my own story, and I was convinced I was writing a better truth. I catch myself in lies every single day, oversaturated versions of reality, desperate to make my day-to-day life sound more intriguing than it is. And after successfully destroying several relationships, I began to dig deeper about why exactly I continue to do this. I know that it never works out in my favor. I then realize I have to remember a bunch of really complicated lies and who I told them to. But I continued doing it. Some of them were to hide things from others. But some of the deeper ones I feel like were more to hide things from myself. I would say things like, don't worry, I didn't oversleep, my classes were canceled. Don't worry, I ate before I came, I'm not hungry. Oh, don't worry, I have the stomach flu. That's what was going on that you overheard. Don't worry, I quit smoking. Don't worry, I've been taking my medications. Don't worry, I'm still seeing my therapist. Don't worry, I can handle it. Don't worry, I'm okay. Don't worry. Giving the appearance that I was not something to be concerned about began to come as naturally as lying. Cliche as it is to say, maybe this was a cry for help, but I truly don't think it completely was. However, it definitely was a successful way to isolate myself from any help I could have received. It took telling the truth a lot to get myself out of where I was. It took confessing things to friends and family members and lovers, and some people are never going to forgive me for some of the things I did. And it took accepting that to be able to dig myself out of this hole. And now I'm here. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here today. It was scary as hell, but I'm here. Do I still tell lies? Yeah, probably every day. But I really don't want to lie about that, because I'm not here to tell you that I am this completely changed person and that I've learned this new sense of morals. I know I'm always going to be this person. But it definitely took a lot to get to where I am today. Are all of the lies that I told a bad thing? Yes and no. I know I permanently hurt people. I can't take that back. But at the same time, they made me who I am today. I'm still untangling this web that I've been crafting since I was a child. This warped reality I created seemed like a better truth. Just like my friend had told me, writers are telling a better truth. But perhaps it was just an easier one. No one wants to admit to their mistakes. And I was making wrong turns for years. And finding that internal map, the consciousness that I had forgotten about, and turning off that dirt road was unimaginably difficult. And it took a lot of analyzing and breaking down who I was and why in order to accept it and ultimately to forgive myself. and redefine who I truly am. I think I know who I am now. Let me put some emphasis on that. I think I know who I am now. Because here's the thing, lying is so much more complicated than what you've told other people. The most complicated lies are the ones you tell yourself to the point of believing that they are true. When you've said something took place enough times, your memory begins to get warped, and you can't remember truly whether or not these events took place. So because of this, you can get so deeply lost in it, and most of the memory of my life, I feel like, is a piece of historical fiction. It's based on my reality, but it's been altered by the writer. And some of it's true, some of it's embellished, but I don't know where the line is. Telling this story excruciatingly honestly was far from easy. I doubted myself the entire time preparing for this because I wanted to come up here and tell you all that I've changed, that I am no longer this liar, that I'm a better person, but I'm never going to be a pathological liar. But it's also never just going to be a part of my past because it took a long time to determine exactly what the truth was. And I still don't know exactly what the truth is. I know I'm a better person. I know I've come so far, and I don't entirely regret everything I've said. But without these lies, I wouldn't have this story to tell. I wouldn't have my story to tell. Preparing for this presentation forced me to analyze myself deeper than I had in years. I was complaining to my boyfriend almost every single day, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if what I'm saying up here is true. You know, I'm telling you guys I'm a liar. How do I know I'm not just standing up here and lying to all of you? So it took a lot of figuring out what was and wasn't a lie in order to even be able to talk about lying. It's really confusing. This definitely led to some extremely awkward confessions to several people, and it gave me a lot of anxiety. But after all of it, what I have to tell is kind of a beautiful story. I want to tell you I've changed. I want to stand up here, stand real tall and proudly saying, I am no longer a liar. I'm a better person for it, and I'm never going to be that person again. But what I did truly find is that my life will never be that black and white. I will never be just a liar, and I will never be the essence of honesty. My reality lies somewhere in the shades of gray in between. And in reality, I did write a better truth, and it's time for me to stop trying to erase my story. Thank you.
Alison Tipton, ladies and gentlemen. I did not have a stripper at my bachelor party, but I'd like to lie about that because she was gorgeous. I like hot dogs. She's the fucking liar. I like hot dogs, and that's not my secret, but I grew up in northern New Jersey, and there's a little hot dog stand in Clifton, New Jersey called Rutt's Hut. And they make the most fabulous hot dogs ever. I remember eating there when I was a kid with my family, and then when I got a little bit older, I would take dates there, and we'd grab a hot dog inside and then make out in the parking lot. I was really bad at that. And then as I got older, I realized, wow, that was the coolest place ever. And now when I go back to visit, on the ride home from the airport, we're stopping at Rutt's for a hot dog. And one night I'm flipping through PBS because I like watching PBS, and there's a guy that does these programs. He does these hour programs. His name is Rick Seebeck, and he does these hour programs on things that are happening in America. He did amusement parks, he did sandwich shops, he did ice cream shops, and of course, he did a whole hour on hot dog stands throughout the country. And as I watched, I was fascinated because I'm a hot dog aficionado. I love hot dogs. And then it came to the segment, and the guy said, and if you're ever in Clifton, New Jersey, you have to stop at Rutt's Hut. And I went, that's my childhood place. That's amazing. And they interviewed the guy that owns the place. And they were saying, what makes it such a great place, and why does everybody love it so much? And he said, well, we blend our own hot dogs, and we don't want to know what's in those things, but we blend our own hot dogs, and then it's about good customer service, and it's about making everybody feel happy to be there. And then while he was in that interview, he turned around as if the interview was done, but the camera followed him, and as he walked behind the counter, he touched every cashier and had something interesting to say to them. He would lean over their shoulder and say, you taking care of that daughter of yours? And how's everything going how's that car of yours that you're working on in your garage? And he made sure that he touched everybody, and he gave everybody a positive statement as he walked by. And yeah, I'm a lover of hot dogs, but after I saw that, I went, I want to work for this guy. And then I started thinking about that. Why? Why do I want to work for him? And what does it mean to be a good leader? What does it take to be a good leader? What do you have to be a good leader? And it's really, really simple. Because leadership is totally misunderstood in our culture, because most people think that leadership is about getting the job done and being productive and all of those sorts of things. And yeah, that's part of leadership, but going about it, you have to go about it in a way that makes people want to work for you. And by being positive and by giving praise and admiration to the people that are working for you, they can't wait to get up the next morning and come to work for you. So when I was thinking about doing this presentation, I thought, I really want to talk about leadership. And I've done it before. I've talked to small businesses, and I talk to my classes from time to time. I didn't say much about my introduction. I am a lecturer here. I've been a lecturer here in human communication studies for about 20 years, and I've taught at a variety of community colleges. I've been teaching at Fullerton JC for the last 10, 11 years. And I teach interpersonal communication. So I talk about these issues in my classes. And leadership has always been on the tip of my tongue. And then I've had people come to me and go, but I'm not a leader. I don't lead. I'm okay to be a sheep. I'm okay to be a follower. I just want to do the job. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought that's the wrong answer. Because everybody in this room, everybody on this campus, everybody on this planet has somebody that looks up to you. And that means you're a leader. I don't care if it's your 5-year-old brother or your niece or your nephew. Somebody looks up to you as a role model. Some of you have kids. Some of you have brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. Some of you have wives. And those people look to you for guidance. They look up to you as a role model. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that takes, because that's my secret. It's the secret to life. And it's just not taught. We live in a very selfish society, and I'm okay with selfishness. I'm perfectly okay being selfish. This is my water. You're not getting any. And when I go out to dinner, I order my food. I eat it. I don't go, would you like some? I want to be selfish. And really, what it is, it's an individualistic society where the individual is more important than anything else. And so you grew up to learn that you're the important person. And it's all me, me, me kind of thing. And that can be good to a certain degree. But without understanding the bigger picture, you kind of get lost in that because we get so independent in the way that we do business and the way that we think about ourselves that we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about my relationship to you and what my benefit can be to you and how I can help you. We don't live in a society like that, so nobody's helping me, so why should I help you? But you don't understand the dynamics. So I'm going to try and explain it to you. When you are praised, when somebody pats you on the back and says you did a good job, there's a series of physiology that happens in your body. I don't know the exact glands. It could be the thalamus or the hypothalamus. Secrete a couple of. I'm just going to talk to you about 3 hormones, and they are norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. And they're the happy hormones. They're the ones that make you feel good about yourself. When you're in love, those things are going crazy, and you feel, oh my God, I'm lightheaded. And you feel what are the phrases? I'm on cloud 9. I'm walking on air. And that's because your head is so filled with these hormones that you feel really, really good. That happens when you're praised, when you're told good job. Pat on the back. When that guy was walking behind those cashiers, touching every one of his workers and making a comment about them personally, they got shots of dopamine and they felt really good. And that's why they want to come back to work tomorrow. And when you don't have that, if you grew up in a household that wasn't terribly supportive and it was condescending or it was critical and nothing you did was right and they're always picking on the stuff that you were trying to do, you don't get that shot of dopamine and you don't get that feeling of bliss from interacting with people and trying to be yourself. And when you don't get that, you still want it, you still want to feel good, and you look for it artificially. And that can be a variety of places that you can find that. You can find it in alcohol. You come home at the end of the day and you don't feel good because your boss doesn't give you praise or you don't have a relationship that's very supportive, but there's beer in the fridge. And after you have 3 or 4 or 7, you feel pretty good. Drugs, sex, food, workaholism, all of those things will fulfill some of those needs, but it's not natural because it's not coming from somebody that really appreciates you. Every one of you is a role model to somebody. Why not be the best role model you can be? We're so used to this society not being terribly supportive that we don't think, why should I be supportive? They're not being supportive back to me. But here's what you do miss. It comes back. It comes back to you. When I give somebody praise, they have a smile on their face and they say, thank you, that was nice of you to say that. And that smile comes back into my head and gives me a shot of dopamine. It's like I manufactured that dopamine on my own by giving somebody some praise and being positive to them. You need to try this, immediately. Tonight, tomorrow, over the weekend. Find something. I do it with people in the elevator. They think I'm weird, but that's okay. I love talking to people in the elevator. They don't like me talking to them, but I love talking to people in the elevator. And I will say, wow, that's a really interesting hairdo. I love the color of your hair. I love your shoes. Oh, your shoelace, pink shoelace. Love pink. Favorite color. And then pink. Oh, he likes pink. Oh shit. And pink nail polish. Nice. Nice. Anybody else got pink on? You have your nails done in pink, Carlos? Nice. And that makes me feel good, but then their reaction gives me a shot of dopamine, and then I feel good. And we don't get it because we're not used to it, because people aren't doing it to us. They're not doing it with us. And we just like, why should I even bother? But you need to start trying to do it, because that's the secret to life. It's the absolute secret to life. People have needs. People communicate to fulfill their needs. They're wandering through life to fulfill their needs. And most of the needs that I see on their face as I walk through campus, as I walk through the train station, wherever I am, as I walk through the grocery store, most of the facial expressions on the people, my interpretation of it is, please love me. People are dying to be loved. They're dying to be appreciated. They're dying to be valued. And that's the main thing. That's the main thing that people need. And I don't care where you put me. You can put me in the middle of Africa. You can put me in Britain. You can put me anywhere in the United States. And I know the people around me want to be valued. They want to be loved. And I grew up in the Christian church. I'm a bit of an atheist. Not a bit. I'm an atheist. And I heard over and over again, Sunday after Sunday, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor. And point the finger of God at you, love your neighbor. And then we go home and we'd bitch about the neighbors. What? It's just something wrong with that. And it wasn't until I got my education and I started teaching and got into this section where we're talking about needs, that everybody needs to feel valued. And one of the things that we do as human beings in order, because we're competitive. I know we're competitive on a national scale, we're competitive individually. And particularly when it comes to conflict, our attitude is, you're worthless. Whatever it is, you need to win. Keep this in mind. The next time you're in a fight with your brother, your sister, your significant other, I know that there are some people that brought their significant others. You're in trouble. The next time you have to win. What does your partner have to do? They have to lose. If you have to win, they have to lose. That's the way it works. Economics works that way. If you have to win, they have to lose. And if that's your stance, you're dating a loser. Think about this for a minute. You're dating a loser of your own creation. You created that person because you stripped them of value. We do that with nations. We did that. Nations have done it throughout the ages. Imperialism, colonialism, slavery. It's all about stripping people of value. We sail into Africa and you don't eat the food we do. You don't look like we do. You don't worship like we do. You don't dress like, oh God, you don't dress like we do. And we can then strip you of all value and chain you to the bottom of a boat and whip you to pick cotton for the rest of your life. And we were fine with that. And it's only been 140 years. Think about that. And that's what we do on even a smaller scale with significant others, with friends. We strip them of their value, and everybody on the planet is just dying to be valued. And we don't seem to have the time to value them. And that's what good leadership is. And the secret for your life to be wonderful is to start valuing everything and everyone around you and realize that everybody has a story to tell, everybody has a lesson to teach, everybody has gone through the swamp and back. And when we recognize that and we start appreciating that, then we can show that appreciation, and they're going to be happy about it and show it back to you, and you're going to get a shot at dopamine, and you're going to feel better. It's about gratitude and appreciation. It's about recognition and respect. It's about valuing and love. And that's what good leadership is to me. But since there are people in the room that aren't necessarily interested in being leaders, I titled this segment Personship. You don't have to be a leader. You need to be a good person. You need to be a person that appreciates people and expresses that appreciation. We're so afraid to express ourselves. We're so afraid to say things to people. Be brave. Find something and tell them. And whatever you do, don't keep this a secret. Thank you.